Today we have Julbert Abraham, who is the LinkedIn guy. How are you doing today, Julbert?
Fantastic, Wesleyne. Thank you for having me.
All right, let's find out a little bit more about you. Julbert is widely known as the LinkedIn guy. He is the CEO and founder of AGM, a LinkedIn sales navigator training firm based in Kearney, New Jersey. Julbert is also the host of the Small Biz Tips podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher, where he interviews founders of some of the fastest growing companies. He has been featured and mentioned on Social Media Examiner, Entrepreneur, eMarketer, BBC, Huffington Post, ROI New Jersey, and New Jersey Business. Julbert and his team have worked with over 600, I'm saying thousand, 600 companies in 4 continents, helping them turn their LinkedIn connections into clients. So Julbert is not somebody who just turned over a rock yesterday and said, I'm the LinkedIn guy.
Nope.
He is really the authority on LinkedIn. So tell me, how did you get to where you are today?
That's gonna take all day. So here's what I'll do. I'll give you the short version. Came to Haiti about 21 years ago. Started my first business at 18. In college, did it for 4 years with my friends. That's how I make sure I wasn't a broke college student. And then graduated, worked in corporate America, a couple different companies. Then my last company before I got laid off, they taught me how to use LinkedIn, and it was in
Hmm.
the insurance space. And then when I got laid off, I used that skill set to start a marketing consulting business just so I can put food on the table and pay the bills. And
Mm.
fast forward, got into an MBA program and used the money that I was making from that marketing consulting, pay for my bills, pay for my MBA program. And the way I was getting clients was through LinkedIn. So just
Huh.
building relationship with business owners through LinkedIn and so forth. Then what ended up happening after I graduated, just sharing my story with a few people, and there were a lot of interest. So I started just doing some training here and there for folks, still doing consulting work. And I noticed there is a big opportunity. So in September 2013, I said, let's go all in and started this business. Fast forward to now, we've been fortunate to work with 600 plus companies in 4 continents. So it's been a joyful and experience. It's been an amazing experience.
2013. So the funny thing is, when you said that's when you actually started this business, that's about the time that I got on LinkedIn.
Wow.
And I was in a room, I was, salesperson,
Uh-huh.
and the CEO said, okay, everybody needs to be on LinkedIn. You need to be doing this, this, and that. I'm like, what is he talking about? Like LinkedIn, what is he even talking about?
Oh my
And
God.
so that's when I first started LinkedIn. And I tell
Hmm.
people I love it because every single job, every single sales job I had after I joined LinkedIn, I got it because
Mm,
people found me on there, right?
that's
And
awesome.
now I use it daily in my company.
You're doing something
So,
right.
yes, I love LinkedIn. So tell us about your first tip. What is your first tip?
My first tip, which is something that a lot of people don't focus about, a lot of people will focus on the profile and so forth. But before you do anything, have a strategy, right? If you don't have a strategy, you're just gonna go on there. There is no clarity. You don't really have a goal or focus. You're not sure what you're doing. You're gonna have a profile. It's not really gonna communicate to the right people. You're gonna be reaching out to people. You don't really have a goal, so it doesn't work. It doesn't fit. So have a clear strategy of what you're gonna be doing. So is it gonna be partnering with companies like channel partners so that you can bring deals? Is it going to be targeting a specific group of people using the account based marketing approach where you have the decision makers and the people within their network, or is it going to be something where it's going to be focused on content and thought leadership where you attract people to you? Have a strategy. That's the way to get things done.
So, what if someone is out there and they're doing all three of those things that you're saying? What's the first thing they need to do to define which strategy is the best to employ?
Good question. So first, when you're looking at, okay, what's my end goal? Is it meetings? Is it is it more like brand awareness? Or what is that end goal is? Once you have that end goal, then you can focus, okay, do I want to go after people that are decision makers at larger companies, if that's your end goal, and then who are those partners and influencers that can work with these people as well. So once you figure that part out, then it becomes easy to know, okay, if I know this is my end goal, what strategy will help me get there? So it's really reverse engineering what you're doing.
I love that. I love that. So what is the next tip?
All right. So the next step is, once you have that strategy in place, I want you to focus on targeting the right people, right? Because if you have a good strategy, then you know exactly who you're going to target. And a tool that I recommend, especially if you're a sales account manager or your sales executive, set up a Sales Navigator account. It is worth it. The amount of data that you get access to, from knowing when someone got a new position in the last 90 days to knowing what company just got funded in the past 12 months. So it's so many data point that you don't have access in a regular LinkedIn that can help and benefit you. So then you can build a better target audience. Then you can monitor who's in that audience, what's going on with them, who share content recently that you should be commenting on so you could grab their attention.
So tell us, because you mentioned Sales Navigator,
Yes.
and there are a lot of the premium LinkedIn tools that are out there, and people are like, I don't need that, or oh, it costs, I don't know, it's $800 to $1,000 a year. So give us, in a nutshell, what Sales Navigator is and who actually needs it.
Perfect. So Sales Navigator is LinkedIn Ultimate Premium Prospecting Tool. It's a subscription program. You can do a month to month at $79.99 a month, or you can take advantage of the annual plan and save about 20%. It's about $700+. Now, the beauty about Sales Navigator is, if you are in sales, you are prospecting, you're getting in front of the right potential clients, you're the first frontline person, that is the perfect tool for you to understand what's going on within an organization, if there's growth, if they're hiring, understand who are the new hires, understand what your prospect are doing on LinkedIn, if they're putting out content, because a lot of high decision makers, they'll put out a post, they got like 3 people that likes it, and then it's all cricket. So you want to be that person that they keep seeing in their news feed, that they keep seeing in their notification, and Sales Navigator help you do that based on the data that they provide to you.
So it sounds like Sales Navigator is kind of like a big brother that lets you delve into your prospects and understand everything that they're doing.
100%. It's one of the best tools, because the data that you get from Sales Navigator is real life data. These are the people that are putting those data themselves, right? It's not a list that you're buying where you're hoping some of these data are still relevant. These are first party data. So hence why it makes it so powerful.
I love it. Sales Navigator. So if you're doing anything where you're prospecting, that I heard prospecting, and if you're prospecting, which everyone in sales should be prospecting, no matter if you're the leader of the team or you are the salesperson, it sounds like that is a tool you should have in your toolbox. And what's your third tip for us?
My third tip is really systemize your approach. The biggest challenge for a lot of people is they'll spend 3 to 5 hours a day on LinkedIn and don't get anything done. So you do not want to be that person. So you want to focus on systemize your approach. Create a routine for yourself. Figure out, okay, if I'm going to spend 30 minutes on LinkedIn every day, here's what I'm going to do my first 10, 15 minutes. Focus on engaging with some of my prospect content. Here's what I'm going to do in my second 10, 15 minutes. Focus on targeting and reaching out to new people and start conversation. So that alone makes you become you've structured. So you have some structure going on. You systemize the process, and guess what? You can measure your activity level. So when you go to your higher up and say, "Hey, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm using Sales Navigator. Here is some of the activities that I've been doing. Here is my social selling index score." So now they can track everything that's happening, and they could say, "Okay, he's on LinkedIn. He has a big pipeline. He has 10 people that's in the pipeline. Here is where they are in the buyer's journey."
So systemize and really focus on, because you're right. A lot of times, you just do random activities. Are you cold calling? Are you on LinkedIn? Are you selling emails? But having a plan and actually executing and saying, here are metrics that I'm going to do every day or every week or every month to ensure that I'm getting to the desired goal. So you mentioned something, a social selling index.
Yes.
What is that thing?
So LinkedIn gave everyone access to this. So if you want to find what your social selling index score is, basically it's a score that LinkedIn created to help you understand your presence on LinkedIn, right? This from 0 to 100. If you have below 50, that means you got some work to do. And let's start with the profile. Make sure your profile is updated. Make sure you're engaging the right people. If it's over 50, good numbers around 70, 80, even 90s. I haven't seen anyone getting 100. Like the highest I got was a 96. So,
Ooh.
and it changes every day. So it gives you a way to kind of measure, okay, what am I doing on LinkedIn? Am I doing the right activities? And be able to use that as a tool for your higher ups because you could say, hey, based on my social selling index score, you could see how it grows since I started working here. I went from a 30 to now a 70. And because of those changes I made on my LinkedIn, here's some of the people I have in my pipeline that came from me using Sales Navigator. So now it's better for them to keep you accountable and you have the numbers to prove it. And because you're creating these behaviors, there's no way for you to fail.
Data doesn't lie, right?
Yes, sir.
So the data is there, and this is something that changes every single day. And one thing that I like when I check my social selling index, it not just measures and sees how well I'm prospecting and talking to people, it measures you against your colleagues. So
Mm-hmm.
you can see, okay, in my industry, this is where I am. And so if you're like at the bottom of the bottom of the barrel, if you will, that means you're losing a lot of money
Mm-hmm.
because everyone else is out there and they're talking to those people. They're getting in contact with those prospects.
That's
So you
right.
gave us so much information on how to make LinkedIn beneficial for our business. Can you give us a success story? Tell us about someone who used this process or one or all of your tips to really help increase their sales.
So many, but all right, I'm gonna give you one specific gentleman. He worked with us. He went through our accelerator program. His name is Jason. And when he first started, he was using Sales Navigator, but he didn't really have a strategy. So it was like, oh, I'm just gonna go on there and just gonna start reaching out to people and see what happens. Right? It's like the spray and hope type of philosophy. So first thing we did is help him develop a strategy. Once he had a strategy nailed down, then we start focusing on the right target audience. So for him, he's in a financial service space. Um, that is a very hard industry because everybody that's in there are normally reaching out to the same people. So we did something a little bit different. He had a passion for baseball. He's a big baseball player. So we said, why don't you focus on business owners that love baseball? you know,
I love
and,
it.
and just that change, he was able to build a amazing number of targeted prospects in his pipeline for Sales Navigator. He started reaching out to them, build relationship, had meetings with two $10 million companies. That came from that approach, and now he's working on closing the deals. So I want you to think about just following, having a strategy, develop your target audience, and systemize your approach. Led them to having meetings that's going to be closing with two $10 million companies.
Wow. One thing that I say a lot and I hear a lot are the riches are in the niches,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so the more you can niche down, and what you said is sometimes we don't think about it.
Yeah.
What do I like? What am I good at? How can I relate to somebody and be human? Because what
Yes, sir.
everyone dislikes is those spammy messages that you get in your LinkedIn. And you're like, they're not relevant. Why are they here? But give me something I can hold on to. That's awesome. Closing two $10 million deals. And all he did was say, hey, I like baseball. You like baseball? Let's share about baseball. All right.
Honestly, his conversation was really, what's your favorite team? And I noticed that you're in the baseball world, and it's you wonder, okay, how do I find out if somebody like baseball? I'm a baseball fan. I'm gonna give you a big value bomb right now. Leverage LinkedIn groups. On Sales Navigator, you can search by LinkedIn groups, and there are hundreds of thousands of groups out there about everything.
Mm. That's a good one. A good. Now that's a deep knowledge thing. That's
Yes.
not something that you would hear on the surface. So when Julbert says he's been doing this since 2013 and he has worked with over 600 people, he really knows what he is talking about. I know that you have a free gift for the
Yes.
audience, and I know everybody's anticipating what can I get to get me jump started on my LinkedIn?
All right. So for everyone, thank you again for this opportunity, Wesleyne, that's listening to this. You can take advantage of our free LinkedIn audit. And it's very simple. Go to freelinkedinaudit.com and you could set up a time with me, someone in my team to go through your LinkedIn, spend about 15 minutes, give you some ideas and tips on how you can leverage it, and then go from there. If it makes sense, we can work together. If not, take those nuggets and implement.
That's good. A LinkedIn audit. You can never have too many LinkedIn audits because there's a million different resources on there on how to, what to, not to do, and this and that. So to have an expert physically look at it, I think is the best way. And so typically I ask, how is the best way for people to get in contact with you? But I'm just going to say, how can they find you on LinkedIn?
Julbert Abraham. It's that simple.
Julbert Abraham. You can find him on LinkedIn, the LinkedIn guy. Thank you so much, Julbert. You gave us so many golden nuggets, so many amazing things that we can implement immediately. If you're listening to this podcast, you should finish up with it and go do some of these things immediately.